What's going on YouTube? 0088 here, and I'm going to talk about Passengers. Right, normally when I do reviews, I know you see my train, maybe you see my Train to Busan review, but normally when I do reviews I do it about the biggest movies out, like whether it's Star Wars or, you know, some Marvel flicks or some DC flicks, you know, basically my favourite big budget blockbuster movies that everyone's talking about. I want to do a review on that. I want to get my opinion across. But this film has got me going some, because I saw this film, like, you know, with my girlfriend randomly, and like this film got to me, you know. I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. And then I come to find out that all critics and reviewers, whether they're amateur reviewers or whether they're big name critics, they all seem to have their various problems with this film. Some problems I agree with and are legitimate, and some problems are typical SJW, you know, extreme PC extremist bullshit that doesn't make no sense. That they're basically saying you can't tell these stories because it doesn't make me feel good, or it doesn't. I don't have these I have these weird sensibilities that ruin everything, you know. So I'm going to start with a little general review. Obviously I'm going to go into spoilers because you have to spoil this film. Sorry guys, if you haven't seen this film, I'm going to go into spoilers, but anyway, let's get right into it. So basically, when I start my general review, I'll say that first of all, the music. The music in this film is like so different. Like, it kind of reminds me of 90s a little bit, the soundtrack. There's certain bits of this film where the music just kind of gives me chills. It's a little bit epic, you know, a bit different. It reminds me a bit of a 90s kind of music where it's just like really noticeable and you really feel it, you know. Movies nowadays are just in the background and they just guide the film along. You don't even notice that it's there, but this soundtrack really pops out and you notice it. I mean, I've heard some people that said they didn't really feel it, but I kind of enjoyed the music. The effects, the special effects, CGI on point. There's some certain scenes, I'm sure you guys have seen the clips of it, where Jennifer Lawrence is stuck in a bubble of water from the swimming pool in the ship, and the effects just look amazing. Like, there's some anti-gravity effects that just look really cool, and just like, because I'm really into the story and what's going on, the effects just enhance it. You know, I've always said that it's not about good CGI, it's about a good story. And if the story is good and the CGI is good, that's just a almost near enough a perfect film. But if the story is weak and the CGI is amazing, it doesn't even matter. Transformers 3, for example, CGI looks like crisp, amazing, but the story looks like the story is dog shit. So, but anyway, the story in this I think is pretty decent. But yeah, let me get into what it's about. Basically, you got Chris Pratt, you got Jennifer Lawrence, and they're on a journey.
We boarded the Avalon with a destination. 120 years hibernation means we'll wake up in a new century on a new planet. But a year ago, everything changed.
Hello? Anybody here?
Hello?
We woke up too soon. 90 years too soon.
Something goes wrong and Chris Pratt wakes up way too early and he's on his own for 90 years. Right, this is where people start to have a problem with it. Chris Pratt does something that is morally and ethically reprehensible, and like it pissed everybody off, and not everybody, but I'll get into it. Basically, Chris Pratt is alone for a year on this ship. He's woken up too early. The computer systems can't help him. He's growing a beard. He doesn't need to shave because who's he going to impress? The computers? No, the only person that's got to keep him company is an AI robot bartender that looks like he's from The Shining, called Arthur. He's intelligent, so Chris Pratt can sort of talk to him. The robot sort of knows some things about humans, but obviously can't go too far, can't understand things, take things very literally, thinks very logically, so the robot doesn't really get things. And Chris Pratt obviously is feeling alone. The robot ain't going to do it. It's not going to do it. It's like talking to Siri. You can't talk to Siri for 90 years and then think you're going to be cool. Nah. So Chris Pratt even slaps the robot across the face a couple of times. And he's like, and the robot, and he's like, see, look, Chris Pratt is like, you don't even feel anything. You can't feel anything. I need a human to talk to. And you know, as Chris Pratt starts going a bit mad, he gets to the point where he's suicidal. He wants to kill himself. Like, he literally wants to kill himself. He's had all the fun he can have on the ship, you know, on his own. But then he realises, oh man, I'm alone for 90 years. It really weighs heavy. It's down. It actually got to me when this is another thing. That part got to me when I was watching the film, that he was suicidal, tears were coming down. He was thinking of killing himself. And that part I thought was really powerful. I was really feeling it. It was realistic. I think some humans, if they were in that kind of situation, wouldn't even be able to get to that point before they do what Chris Pratt does. And basically, Chris Pratt starts looking at all the other sleeping pods, all the other 5,000 passengers, and he comes across one, Jennifer Lawrence's pod, and she's sleeping. And she's basically called Aurora, which is Sleeping Beauty, you know, a reference to Sleeping Beauty, and she's just sleeping there looking beautiful, and he looks at her and he's like, wow, she's amazing. He finds out her name and her details. He starts looking up all the history through the ship's computers and stuff, and he finds out about who she is and what she wants to do on this new planet, where she has a new life and everything like that. And Chris Pratt is just like really enamored by this woman. Like he starts to fall in love with her. She's a journalist, and he reads all her books. He reads all her books for the year or something like that. He reads all her stories or whatever, and he basically just falls in love with her. He sees all the videos of her of doing interviews or whatnot, and then he just decides, you know what, I want to wake this girl up. I'm sick of being lonely every night. He's sick of being lonely, and he just wants to wake her up. And then he's talking to his robot buddy Arthur. Should I wake her up? And he just like, Arthur's like, okay, you know, he's a robot. He doesn't really know what's going on. Like, Chris Pratt will break something, and he wakes her up, and he lies to her, and he says, oh, there's been a malfunction. We've both been woken up at 90 years too early. And she's thinking, what? Really? And he's all like, yeah, like he's lying to her, like he didn't tell her that he woke her up. And that is the coolest part of the film. That ethical question is, would you condemn someone else to the same punishment that you're getting just so you're not alone? You know, human beings and being alone just does not mix. We were not created to ever be on our own. We're created to be with other humans, you know, or at least be with other sentient beings, at least in our capacity, something intelligent to our level that we can relate to, you know. And we can't be on our own. He was getting to a psychotic stage, and he was getting to a psychotic point in his life. So he wakes her up, and he's lying to her, and maybe some months go by or something, and they start really getting along, and he kind of makes her fall in love with him. I mean, it's easy to do that when there's no one else, and when you believe he's the only one left, and you're stuck with this guy. There's no way to do anything to sort this out. So you're stuck with this guy. It's easy to fall in love with. Chris Pratt is a puppy dog as well, so it was easy for her to fall in love with him. But then the robot misunderstands something and then tells her what Chris Pratt did, that he woke her up on purpose. And that's when shit went down. I was like, oh hell no, she's gonna go mad. And she kicked the shit out of him. She ignored him first, but then eventually I thought in my head, nah, someone would kill someone for this shit. She would beat the shit out of him, punched him in the face. She was gonna kill him. But then I feel like at that point where she was gonna kill him, she stopped. Not because Chris Pratt had puppy dog eyes that was like, but because I think she realised, oh man, I don't want to be on my own, and if I kill him, I'm on my own. I'm in the same position he was when he woke someone up. And I was like, damn, this is some deep shit. And then this is where people had problems with it. This is where I get into the SJW PC extreme rape culture bullshit. Everyone calling it rape culture. Basically, they have a problem with this film because they think the film didn't address what Chris Pratt did enough. Everyone keeps saying, oh, the film just let Chris Pratt do something so horrible. He basically raped her, and he gets away with it, and then he gets the girl at the end. Because after this, the captain randomly wakes up, and then they all together try and fix the ship, because the ship's all broken. Obviously, that's how it all started. And then Chris Pratt fixes the ship with Jennifer Lawrence, and it's all happy ever after. Well, not kind of, because Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence just live in the ship and make the ship their home until they get old and die of old age before the ship reaches its destination, and all the other 5,000 passengers wake up. So that's basically what happens. And the ending bit, I agree, was kind of but what I got from the ending was I liked how Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence were, you know, they became, how they got past the whole he woke her up thing, and because they went through some tragedy together and some big emotional near death kind of events, that it brought them closer together and they realised how much they need each other in this situation. But then the question is still there, like, why does Chris Pratt get to go away with it? They even added a bit where Chris Pratt had the ability to send her back to sleep, but only her. A bit of a Titanic, who's going to lie on the door thing. Jack and Rose can both fit on the door. Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence can both fit in the sleeping thing. Chris Pratt has a chance to put her back into sleep for another 80 years or whatever. And Jennifer Lawrence decides not to do it because she's in love, she wants to be with Chris Pratt, and she doesn't want to leave him on his own, even though he gave her the option to. And that's meant to be like his way of saying sorry, he gave her the ability to do it. But obviously, I understand this as well, people ain't going to buy that shit because they gave him a way out. The plot made him have a way out to right the wrong he did. But really what they wanted to do was like him to suffer and him to understand what he did was wrong. Now here we go. Here's the meat of this. With the rape culture, everyone's saying he's raped her. They even address it in the film that it's like murder. You know, rape and murder, I'd like to think are quite as bad as each other. You know, murder and rape, they're pretty bad things. So she's saying, you murdered me, you've killed me, you've taken my life away. You know, and he actually has done that. But he didn't just do that for fun. He didn't just do that because he was bored. Maybe he did it because he was a little mental, but ask yourself this, people who are criticising this film because what Chris Pratt did was wrong and he's been treated as a hero, ask yourself this, if you were in his situation, on a voyage for 150 years, you wake up 90 years too early, you're the only one awake, no one else is going to wake up, you don't know when anyone else could wake up, nothing else is going to go wrong, as far as you know, you've been on this thing for a year, over a year, on your own in a mini city-sized spaceship with a robot butler that looks like it's from The Shining, like just sitting there every day, not moving, and you would freak out. Like, I think some people would freak out in the first month. You know, you can't go anywhere. It's like a giant hotel where you can't go anywhere. You're stuck in space with all these people sleeping. You can't even wake them up because you know you're going to ruin their life as well. You're telling me you wouldn't get to the point where you're so fucked up that you couldn't wake someone up? I think that's, anyone that says they wouldn't do it, they're lying. Either they would kill themselves or they would wake someone up. And not everybody can kill themselves, so what are you going to do? You're going to live on that ship on your own for 90 years? That's bullshit. Come on. So, but then doesn't mean, just because most of us will most likely wake someone else up, doesn't take away the ethical question of what he did wrong. And this is where the film falls apart for most people, because instead of focusing on that question, it went into loads of action and fun and sci-fi stuff. Right. The great thing they could have done was, if, let's say Jennifer Lawrence's character wakes up and the same thing happens and she finds out that Chris Pratt was lying to her, it goes into a kind of a thriller. But some people have been saying, yes, some people are saying the same thing I'm saying, it goes into a thriller where Chris Pratt is the bad guy and he's evil and he's stalking her around the ship. No, he's not the bad guy. He's doing what anyone would have done, you know? And okay, he picked a hot chick, like, and he fell in love with her in a psychopathic way where he's never even met her before, but he fell in love with the idea of her. Like, that's another great little ethical theme that you can explore, just the idea of falling in love with someone without actually ever meeting them, especially in this day and age with like catfishing and everything like that, and like just falling in love with celebrities that you've never even met, that don't even know you exist, you know. Just that idea alone is interesting to explore and is realistic and is relatable. I don't know how people can not relate to that, but anyway, I digress. But I think what could have happened is a thriller where Chris Pratt, he's a nice guy, puppy dog eyes, he just didn't want to be alone, he needed some companionship, and he wakes up Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer Lawrence finds out, then Jennifer Lawrence can be the threat, and Chris Pratt is not necessarily the hero, but he's the sympathetic character. Like, you're sympathetic with both of them, because you're sympathetic with Jennifer Lawrence because she's just been woken up and sent to hell. She's been woken up and sent to this world where someone lied to her and forced her to live with him for the rest of her life against her will, you know. And then you have Chris Pratt, who's alone, and he was stuck in a tough situation where he either has to kill himself or bring someone to drown with him, you know. and it's not easy. You're gonna do it. You're a human being. So have Jennifer Lawrence chase him to death, and she's kind of scary. You think she's a bit of a bitch for doing what she's doing, but at the same time you completely understand where she's coming from, and you would probably do the same thing as her. You're in Chris Pratt's shoes. He's running away from her, trying to hide from her on the ship. Doesn't want to hurt her. He feels guilty already, you know, and he feels like he kind of deserves it. And he's trying to survive at the same time. Doesn't want to die. So they'd have to get rid of that scene where he's ready to take the hit from her, because I don't want him to be that guilty to the point where he believes he needs to die. I believe he's sorry, but he just doesn't want to die, and she wants to kill him, and she's trying to plot to kill him around the ship. Could have been a little thriller like that if they're clever with the writing. I know it's kind of hard to do, but if they're clever with the writing, it could have been a thriller like that. And now, how you end the film, it could have ended like with Jennifer Lawrence tries to kills him. Maybe she succeeds in killing him for waking her up, and he dies. And then she realizes she's alone, and she realizes where she just put herself. She's fucked. She's alone, and the film ends by her waking someone up, and it ends there. And then that's why. And then she realizes why he did what he did, and then that question is pounding in your head like, holy shit! Like, it shows that how much someone can be a hypocrite, you know. And blame someone for something when you would do the same thing, and that's just a very good, you know, analysis of the human mind and human nature. That's how the film could have gone, but I was still happy with the film, because at the end of the day, like, the moral question is still there. Like, without Jennifer Lawrence killing him, or them chasing each other, or them trying to fight each other, he woke her up. That ethical question is still there. Like, and from that you can go anywhere. Just like how I went to that ending. Oh, would I do this? Like, when me and my girlfriend finished watching this, we were up till like 2 a.m. just talking about what we would do in this situation. What I would do if I went on holiday with her on this ship and I was asleep and she woke me up, and things like that. Or if we were strangers and she woke me up, or if it was a really ugly person like DJ Khaled, and he woke her up, and how she would feel about it. You know, we were having all these discussions, and that's what a film does. That if you leave a film thinking about the premise, the questions it asks you, and you're debating these questions with other people, I think that's a good film. It did the job. Like, sure, it gave away the big twist in the middle or near the start of the film, and then the rest of the film was just all action and fun and crazy stuff like that. But the question was still there, and that's what made me enjoy the film. Plus, it was a really cool concept, and the world building was great, and the effects were great, and it all looked great. Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence looked hot as hell. It was fun watching them. The romance stuff was a little bit cheesy, but it didn't bother me. I enjoyed watching them do their thing. Because I knew the romance stuff, to me, I just kind of brushed past that and more focused on the ethical questions, and I focused on the cool effects, and I focused on just the idea of being in this situation, putting myself in their shoes, you understand? Because it made me ask all these questions, because it made me get up and want to make this review, analysis, video, that's what made me think this film is a worthy film. I like this film. I think it's a good film. Like, some people are just passing it and saying it's okay. I think it's a really good film. I really enjoyed it. I'd recommend you go watch it. Like, even though, I don't know, people have weird expectations of it. Now, onto the rape culture stuff. Now you're wondering what I mean by rape culture. Like, I understand the concept of what Chris Pratt did to Jennifer Lawrence is kind of like a metaphorical rape. The way he was kind of stalking her, he was looking up on all her details and everything, and he started getting a bit obsessed by her even though he's never met her in reality, and then he wakes her up against her will. It's kind of a metaphorical rape, but it's not actual rape, you know. It's not actually killing someone, because in the end her life, it may not, like, the moral of the story they said was, sometimes in life you get put in situations that you can't control, and rather than killing yourself trying to control that situation, you make the best of what you're given and make the situation work for you. And that was kind of like the moral of the story they were trying to tell, and I understand that. I understand being in that kind of position, but what SJWs and feminists or whatever else didn't like about the film, a lot of these, you know, leftist liberal critics that have gone a bit over the top these days, they didn't like the idea that he woke her up and he didn't get to be punished for it, or he wasn't villainized for waking her up, or that he wasn't the main antagonist chasing her, or that because he's so handsome and he's got these puppy dog eyes that he gets away with it, and if they'd put Danny DeVito in that role, DJ Khaled in that role, that people wouldn't think like that, it would be more creepy. I don't believe that. I believe if you've got Danny DeVito in the role of Chris Pratt and he wakes up Jennifer Lawrence, it's creepy, but if he's acting exactly the same way as Chris Pratt, you should still feel like sympathetic for him. Just because he doesn't look as good looking as Chris Pratt doesn't mean shit, because at the end of the day, what does it say about you when you're saying, oh, because he's ugly, he's an arsehole, but because Chris Pratt's handsome, he's not an arsehole? It says the same thing, either way. But really and truly, it's not rape, because in real life, when you rape someone, or when you take someone's life away, there's no excuse. I'm not saying what Chris Pratt did is a good excuse, I'll get into that in a second, but in real life, when you rape someone, there's no excuse for you. There's no excuse. Whether it's in war or anything like that, whether it's the last woman alive, when you rape someone, there's no excuse for it. When you kill someone, there's no excuse for it. But in this situation, he was stuck on a ship for 90 years, on his own, going mental. It was either he kills himself, or he just goes psychotic. And if he had let himself get even more psychotic, imagine 10 years down the line, you think he'd still have the sanity, the sanity to just not wake anyone up? By that point, without Jennifer Lawrence there to bounce off of him whenever they're down, you know, without some companion there to bounce off him whenever they're down, like, he would have woke everybody up eventually. He would have done that, and everyone in that situation would do the same thing. I truly think that. There might be one or two, like, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know, 100, maybe a couple hundred people on the 7 billion people on this planet that will have the fortitude to manage to live all through the 100 years until they die on their own and not wake anyone up. Then maybe there's some special people out there like that, but I think the majority of human beings, the rest of the 7 billion people on the planet, I think would have done the same thing Chris Pratt did, or either kill themselves. Because no human is meant to be on their own, and that's what they should have explored in the film. But I don't believe this film should have been any different than what it was in terms of the reason why Chris Pratt woke her up as rape culture or anything like that, because it's realistic. It's a good ethical question that we should all ask ourselves, and that we should all dissect, and that we should all talk about. And I think it's ridiculous that people think it's some kind of rape culture or some kind of anti-woman thing that Chris Pratt did that to Jennifer Lawrence's character in the film. It's ridiculous. If the roles were reversed, would they be saying the same thing? If Jennifer Lawrence woke up Chris Pratt, would they be saying the same thing? I don't know. But all I know is it's one of the most stupidest, dumbest reasons to hate this film. Like, I can understand if you didn't like where it went with the action, like at the end, rather than going through that question of waking her up, which would have been more fun and more interesting. But I can't understand people that's calling it rape culture, or people that is trying to compare it to, like, that to make Chris Pratt out like he's a bad guy for what he did, or to make out like he didn't get punished enough for what he did, or there was no reprehensions for what he did. Like, there was this film went into it quite a bit about how bad what he did was. And they even tried to show it from a different point of view of Lawrence Fishburne's character, where he said a drowning man will always try and drag someone down with him, you know. Just because that's true, just because that sounds bad, doesn't make Chris Pratt's character, doesn't mean that his character should be the antagonist, you know. And I just think it's really disgusting how some people act like they try and take the moral high ground. They try and, you know, bust their boots around and say, how could he do that? I've watched some reviews that really pissed me off, where they're like, oh, how could he do that? How could he do that to Jennifer Lawrence's character? Oh my god, how could he just wake her up? What a horrible, horrible thing to do. Oh my god, get the fuck out of here, man. Let's be real, this is a story about humans here, you're not your idealist, you're not your idealist world where all humans are perfect and they wouldn't do something like that. Let's be real, almost every person would have woke Jennifer Lawrence up, or the other way around, you know? And that's just how I feel about that. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that, and I just think it's ridiculous. But you know, the state of mind Chris Pratt was in, the state of mind his character was in, the things he went through in that ship, even though they could have delved in it in a bit more. Maybe if they did that, people would buy it more. But the state of mind he was in, any person probably would have done the same thing. But yeah, that's my review, analysis, thoughts on the whole Passengers movie. I just wanted to talk about it. I'm disappointed that it's getting bad reviews, because I think it's a decent film. I like the concept. I thought it was good. Like, it may not have gone to the path that it could have gone into to make it even better film, but I think it's still a good film for what it gave us. It tried to please, it did the mistake that most Hollywood films do, where it tries to please everybody, but at the end of the day, it still asks the question, and that question is enough for you to take from this film and then go out yourself and analyze and dissect what the film means to you from that question. You know, that should be enough. You don't need the film to start going into more detail for you, which would be fun, but it asks the question, and that question should be enough. The action scene was just a bonus at the end, and that's how I thought of it. That's why I think it's a good film. Anyway, that's my review of Passengers. I'll give it probably a 7.5 out of 10. You know what, I'll give it a solid 8. I'll give it an 8 out of 10, because I really did enjoy it. I enjoyed the concept, enjoyed the things that happen in it. And I'll definitely recommend it. And yeah, that's my review. If you enjoyed it, give us a like, subscribe, and I'll see you again. Peace.